So we're going to be talking about cybersecurity and how to protect your business, and obviously the big part of everything now is working from home as well. So before I start, just a bit about us. So we are IQ and IT. We are a managed service IT provider. We specialize in cybersecurity. So we are very passionate about technology and cybersecurity, and there is no hiding from cybersecurity. It's affecting everyone, not just businesses, but people in their personal life, and unfortunately children as well. So it's very important to always keep that in mind, and always look out on what's coming. So what we're going to be going over today is sort of bringing and using own devices in the business, home or free Wi-Fi, and sort of threats of using them, business continuity planning, data loss prevention, and updates. So obviously for a business, if people are able to use their own devices, that presents a huge saving, especially for small businesses. But it also comes with its disadvantages. Employees might be wanting to have their home broadband paid for, or not wanting to have their personal computer managed if it's used for work. This presents a problem if your system isn't set up for working from home, or bring your own device. You might be presented with issues if your employee leaves and all of your company data stays on their personal laptop. There's not much you can do about it. So that's a main issue with working from home. Obviously, if you have the right policies set up and you enroll their personal device into your organization, you can then control the data which is stored on the device, and that is perfectly fine. It's always about thinking, how is it going to be used, and how you can retain your data. You can use thing called Azure Rights Management for very sensitive documents, which means that it's always checking for access rights to a specific document. So if you revoke the access, no one, if it's your internal staff or external companies, will no longer have access to that document, and that is a very good way of protecting it. Other things which are important is auditing and monitoring. So making sure that the devices have antivirus protection and are kept up to date, and all of this could be managed through policies which you implement in your business. So unless the device is compliant, your employees won't get access to your data. So yeah, very important to make sure you have the right infrastructure in place before you allow bring your own devices into your network. Wi-Fi security. So what's the main problem is with security on sort of home Wi-Fi or sort of open Wi-Fi is how it's secured. So main problem with majority of routers like Virgin or BT, which are sent out, they're normally quite low-cost devices, and they aren't set up in a secure way. So normally you could go to your web browser and go to an address 192.168.1.1 or 192.168.0.1 or 254 on either of those, and normally you will get to your router page, and that's where you can see what security is set up by default, and you can also check that the updates are carried out on the device. Making sure that the security is WPA2 AES for your Wi-Fi. So quite often, if you have a look, this is a modern Virgin router, and you can see here it's set up with WPA and WPA2. WPA is not secure, and if you find that your router is configured this way, you need to change it to WPA2. So it's very, very simple way of making the change. It won't cause any problems. You may need to sort of forget your Wi-Fi network and reconnect, but most devices will be continuing to be connected to your Wi-Fi, and it gives you a lot more protection. There is a new standard called WPA3, so if your router is capable of WPA3, I would recommend using that instead. You may want to go for WPA2/WPA3 just in case there is devices which aren't compatible with WPA3. Also, for your Wi-Fi password, don't use something which is easily guessable. So don't use your street and your house number or your dog's name, because you call your dog's name in the garden or outside your house, and anyone around might just try and see if that's your password for your Wi-Fi. So just make sure that it is something very random. So a good way for finding out a strong password is going to an XKCD password generator online, and it will just come up with some random words which you can just put together and create a secure password. So very important part of business security is business continuity planning, and main thing is knowing where your data is stored to comply with GDPR. So if you're using cloud services like Dropbox or Google or any other, it's good to sort of map out all the different applications you are using to see where the data is stored, and go through the sort of data mapping exercise to make sure that you are GDPR compliant and you understand where your data is, how you're protecting it, or if you find out that perhaps it's not to the best, it could be of how you mitigate it and put that right. Also having sort of backup of all of your data and the control over your data. So you need to make sure that you are owning your data rather than it being part of a service, and then if you stop paying for the service you lose your data. So quite often a lot of cloud-based software will have your data in it, and if you no longer want to continue with it, you need to sort of export your data before your subscription finishes. Also making sure that the applications are storing the data securely and in the right places. Assuring that you put in two-factor authentication, especially for things like CRM systems where you hold your client's information. You want to make sure that every single person in your company accessing the data has a strong password and two-factor authentication in place. So a two-factor authentication is something you put in place and normally either receive a text message or have a little application on your phone which gives you sort of a 6-digit number to log in. So that's an easy way. I would recommend always going for the application rather than having it sent by a text message, because cloning of SIM cards and having sort of text messages with 2FA codes delivered is something which is a problem, and could be a way in, even if you've got two-factor authentication in place. Doing sort of Office 365 and SharePoint backup, if that's what you're using, or Google Drive and Google Email backups. So with these cloud services, you'll have your data in multiple data centers in different geographical locations. But if someone maliciously deletes something, there's a limited time period where you can recover deleted items. So if you need to retain information for 7 or 10 years or longer, and you find out 2 years after someone has deleted an important document, that is not very good situation. So having a third-party backup for your cloud applications is the way to mitigate this, making sure that all of your data is retained, and you can go back to previous years to access your data and use that in a way as archiving points of your data. So preventing data loss. So quite often I see businesses using online tools. So there's a whole load of online tools where you can upload 2 PDF documents, and it will merge it for you and give you a one document. It seems like a very, very simple way to get the job done. But how do you know what they do with the data? So quite often, if something's free, it means that you are the product of it. Therefore, they're using your information, and you don't know how they use it. And obviously, if you upload sensitive information on there, that you've basically caused yourself a data breach, because it has gone to third party you have no control of, and you have no control of where they store it, what they do with it, and you cannot delete it. So be very, very aware of the online tools you use, and if they are free, there's nothing in the world which is really free. There's always something someone is after if something is free. So be very aware of it, and think of it, where does your data end up? So I would recommend using locally installed applications, making sure that you are downloading it from reputable source. So there's lots of different sites online which have lots of different tools available, and quite often they come with unwanted surprises attached to them, and you install yourself an application together with the malware, and again you are in trouble with someone else having access to your data in your computer and potentially causing malicious damage. So always important to check where it's coming from. So if you have an IT company, or you've got an internal IT person, you might want to get them to check over. The way we handle these sort of things is our clients call us because they don't have admin rights to install it, and our engineers will check that it's a reputable application, that it's not going to be leaking information or come with anything malicious attached to it. Main thing with preventing data loss is staff training. So you could put in the best software, the best hardware in a place, but as if the best security for your office or your home, if you leave the door unlocked, no matter how good that lock is on the door, it's not going to stop someone coming in. So making sure that every single person of your business understands what they should and shouldn't be doing including people who might not be using computers, so people like cleaners or people coming in to do maintenance or something like that. That could be potentially a way in for someone trying to gain access. So quite often social engineering is a very simple way to gain access to someone's network rather than trying to hack a router or get into the network. If they try and pretend to be someone else, it's often a lot simpler to gain access. Updates and patching. So very, very important for Mac, Windows, Linux, Unix computers. I did have someone call up a few years ago and going, but Macs don't get viruses. And of course, the device was full of viruses because Macs, Windows, Linux, Unix, they all do get viruses and malware written for them. As Mac becomes more and more popular, there is more and more reasons for malware and other software to be written for it, because now there is quite a large group of people they can attack with that malware. So always look out for updates and make sure that you install them. Network devices, the same thing, routers, switches, printers. If they are not kept up to date, it will present a simple way for someone to use a vulnerability which is unpatched and get into your network. The same with mobile devices, making sure that your Android or iOS devices up to date. As I mentioned earlier, having a policy which only allows access to devices which are up to date and complying with your security. That way you can ensure that anyone accessing the data has their device up to date. IoT, so Internet of Things, or the Internet of Vulnerable Things, because many of those were designed without security in mind. So there's many devices which are connected to your internet, so you can control your fridge, your washing machine, your dryer from your phone, or your heating in your house. If it's all not secured, that creates a big issue where someone can just take control over your appliances at home. So the best practice I would recommend is to separate those devices onto a separate network, so they aren't part of your main network. Depending how many you have, you might want to further separate them into different networks. So if some of them get compromised, you have a smaller area to deal with, and obviously making sure that any updates are being installed or the devices are set to automatically update. So recent cyber attacks you might have seen. So Colonial Pipeline, which supplies quite a big chunk of the US, has been compromised. So obviously the details about the compromise aren't yet known, but it seems from the fact that the hackers have put up on the dark web an apology that they didn't mean to disrupt infrastructure. That tells me that it's most likely quite a wide attack, and someone has had admin rights who shouldn't have, and opened or clicked on a link from an email and allowed access. And obviously that network has been connected together with the network which controls all the pipelines, and all of that just got infected and encrypted. So this happened quite often, and people tend to sort of pay the ransom so they can regain access to their network, to their data. So a big sort of way you can protect yourself is always assuring that you have backup, so you've got a way to go back and you don't have to end up paying the ransom. So every time someone pays a ransom, it just makes it worse for everybody else in the world, apart from the hackers, because they are really, really well funded, and they can spend a lot of their money on research and development and improving the way they attacks individuals and businesses. Another big breach recently, Microsoft Exchange, which happened a couple of months ago, and there were still many vulnerable email systems on the internet. So this is basically a 0-day exploit, which has been in Microsoft Exchange servers for a long time, but only has been discovered this year. And Microsoft has issued patches. However, a lot of people still haven't patched their email systems. So this doesn't affect Office 365, but it affects the email system on site. So servers in offices where businesses are running their email system from. And what happens is through a web shell, a perpetrator can gain access to the system and then have access to all of the data. So a really nasty exploit, which is very dangerous. The other recent one, which happened about 2 or 3 weeks ago, is a QNAP NAS devices. So that was again a 0-day exploit, which targeted NAS devices which are on the internet. So many people use these either for small offices to share data through, or use them at home as a media streaming devices. So again, through a web shell, a perpetrator can gain access very quickly and easily to the device if it's not patched. OGTVs, so that would go under sort of an IoT device, a vulnerability. If you click on any of your device, so your mobile phone or your computer, if you click on a malicious link, it will basically break the TV on the same network. So again, very nasty way of causing damage for no good reason. So I imagine it's probably someone who's just been learning and came up with this and went, oh, this is a great idea, I'll just distribute it on the internet. So very important to keep your devices up to date. So what I would recommend is that you take the time and you understand the threat which your business may be facing. So a lot of the time, small, medium-sized businesses won't need super strong security. They'll just need a very good baseline security, have staff awareness, have two-factor authentication, and have the right policies in place to help protect the data they hold. I would recommend having either a dedicated member of staff or a third-party provider to review basic updates and devices on a monthly basis. For management reviews, I would recommend to have at least yearly or have 2 yearly reviews of your security, where you sort of look at what you're protecting and see if you've missed anything, if anything has changed, and you need to review how you're protecting your data. The National Cyber Security Centre is a really good resource to look at. They have lots of different tips about passwords, how you protect yourself, how you can keep your staff up to date with details about the latest vulnerabilities and things like that. There's also a great exercise in a box for cybersecurity, which takes you through the steps. So I would recommend that to be your sort of management review. Go through it. It's all free, and it will help to keep your business safe, and it will help in the overall fight with the cyber criminals. Because the less money they get, the less money they can spend on their research and development and attacking people. Another thing I would recommend considering is Cyber Essentials certification. It will show to your clients that you are taking security seriously, and it will demonstrate that you have best practices in place for your business. Depending on who your clients are or what kind of data you hold, it may be good to look at the Cyber Essentials Plus, which also comes with sort of doing a penetration test. So if you have some high-profile clients and there may be a reason for you to be specifically targeted, you may need to do more than just the sort of base level security. So here are sort of resources. So you can do the cyber aware exercise. It's about 2 to 3 minutes, sort of checkbox exercise, just seeing where you are as a business, and that would be a very good way to start to understand where you are and what you need to improve. And then the cyber security exercise in a box is a very good way of doing your sort of review. I would say dedicate a day or so to doing the exercise, and make sure that you have the rest of your team on board with it. So that's all from me.